You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
This podcast is made possible by the Made in Oklahoma program. Created for Oklahoma's entrepreneurs, the free-to-join program focuses on economic growth and development for the small businesses who grow, process, or manufacture a good within Oklahoma. Retail stores who sell Made in Oklahoma products can also benefit from their program. Above all, they encourage you to support and shop local wherever possible. Find them on Facebook and visit their website at www.madeinoklahoma.net to learn more. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode down in Norman, Oklahoma today. I'm a Cowboys fan, so we're in like enemy territory for me.
It's all right.
But I do enjoy coming down here.
Bloom where you're planted.
Yes. Also, the last time I did come down here, we lost, and it was freezing cold, and it was miserable. So it wasn't a great experience, but obviously beautiful, beautiful place to come and hang out. Great food and naturally great coffee down here, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I am down here with Tim Herbel to talk about his businesses, but in particular, Not Your Average Joe. Tim, thank you so much for having me today.
Mike, thanks for coming, making the journey. I know we were postponed a little bit because of some kind of cold weather or something. So.
Yeah, some crazy snow, right?
Yeah, the Arctic came to visit Oklahoma.
Gosh, it was chaos, wasn't it?
It was a long week.
Miserable.
A long week. Evidently, coffee equipment requires constant electricity and high water pressure. Who knew?
Who knew, right? And it's the one thing that you really want too when it's freezing cold is a hot drink, isn't it?
That's right.
But no, thanks for having me today. I'm excited, to share the story, and there is plenty to share. But today, in particular, we're going to talk about Not Your Average Joe. But before we do, give the listeners some context. Who are you? Where are you from? And then what businesses are you guys involved in?
No, absolutely. Well, I grew up in the Panhandle in a fun named town, and it's especially fun to say in public. I'm a graduate of Hooker High. I grew up in the Panhandle in Hooker, Oklahoma, which is near Guyman. It's where the meteorologist stands, when they're talking about the weather for the state.
Oh yeah.
But
beautiful up there.
It is a rugged beauty. We call it John Wayne country.
Yeah.
But my dad was the town butcher. My mom was the town baker. Mm-hmm. And so I don't make candles, so don't ask. But customer service and exceptional food has always been a part of my DNA. Mm-hmm. I've had 3 chapters in life, and my 3rd chapter happens to be coffee and helping others through that. And I started roasting about 10 years ago with our company, Compadres Coffee Roasters. And we did a lot of fundraising, and so we would put other people's labels on the coffee. Mm-hmm. But eventually that coffee got handed off to this place and that, and different coffee shops started using us. But again, it was their label on the coffee. Sure. And so we had an exceptional product, and we knew that. Along the way, we got certified through the Specialty Coffee Association. One of my early business partners, also from across the pond, and he was the tea bloke.
Yeah.
But Mark Maxted, great guy, still loosely affiliated with us, and he's just a great guy to talk with. And we kept growing, kept doing what we did, and eventually we created a blend of coffee called Not Your Average Joe. And every time we would sell this blend of coffee, we would give to different projects to help Not Your Average Joes. Maybe that was disabled veterans. Maybe that was grandparents raising grandkids. Yeah. Maybe that was adults with special needs. We had a myriad of different charities that we would send money to. Eventually, we had the opportunity to take over a coffee shop in Midtown, and we thought about that. They were a customer of ours, and it was a great location, but we're like, the world just doesn't need another coffee shop, let alone another pretentious coffee shop. But we said, maybe the world does need another story to go with that coffee. Maybe the world needs a reason to smile, to feel better, to make their day brighter. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to make Not Your Average Joe not just a blend of coffee, but its own nonprofit. And we focused on hiring adults with special needs. And so we've been down in Midtown since January 1st of 2019, and it's gone very, very well. Obviously, a pandemic showed up to disrupt our plans, but along the way, we were invited to come here to the University of Oklahoma campus. We're sitting obviously in an old house, and the big room down there has been remodeled. It's 3 times larger than what we have in Midtown. A statistic, Mike, behind the scenes, 80% of adults with special needs are unemployed.
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah.
that is not an acceptable number.
Right.
So every time we open a new location, 8 to 12 adults with special needs get a job.
That's awesome.
And we just put an Instagram post out for one of our employees, and her mom had videoed what it was like when she got the news.
Yeah.
And it's just...
It's Christmas Day, isn't it?
It was magical.
That's awesome.
So, that's a little bit of how we got here. And our third location is under remodel right now at May and Britton inside of Homeland. They approached us and said, hey, love what you're doing. Let's work together to address this statistic. And let's get great coffee in the hands of people shopping. But more importantly, a better story to go with it.
Yeah. So growing up, going to Hooker High School, it's hilarious to say that, isn't it? No, I couldn't.
Now, just so you know, I shopped at Hooker Hardware. And we drove around in the Hooker activity bus.
I need to just drive through Hooker, Oklahoma, and you see like little things. Don't you? You always see little pictures or memes or whatever, and there's one out there going through the Oklahoma names, and that's really a place. Okay, so you grew up out there. High school. Where'd you go after high? Did you go to college or did you go straight to work?
So I came to Oklahoma Christian University up there at the intersection of Oklahoma City in Edmond. Obviously, if memory serves, you went to Southern Nazarene, the arch rival.
Arch rivals, yeah. Definitely.
So I majored in ministry up there. That was chapter 1 of my life. And then chapter 2, I did financial services. But I returned to my roots, customer service and good food.
Yeah. Was coffee always in your life growing up?
Absolutely not, unless it was making my mom that coffee that came out of the can and my dad the instant tea. I mean, we're talking, not at all.
1 or 2 spoonfuls of instant coffee and hot water. Yeah.
I did not drink coffee until I was probably in my 30s in ministry in Omaha, Nebraska. That cold weather, I guess I needed something to go with it. And I got probably introduced to coffee through chai, which I always described as Christmas in your mouth. You talked about Christmas Day. So all those spices and flavor notes of like pumpkin pie and all those things that I love to eat during the holidays. And then I learned that all coffee doesn't taste the same.
Yeah. I'm still learning that.
So
it's a minefield, isn't it, of different roasts, tastes, and everything blend.
It is, but probably like tea and craft beer. I know that's a big thing as well. I think for me, it was learning that all people are created equal. That's a little marketing thing that we've played with, but not all coffee. Coffee can taste like rubber. Obviously, coffee is naturally bitter, but if you roast it properly, through the Maillard reaction, which maybe some of your previous guests may have talked about, there's this sugar browning. So it's a lot like barbecue, when you get that caramelization going. And if you can bring out the notes of the coffee and elongate that roast at just the right time, so that, you just like with a steak, it's not overdone or underdone, it's just right. Well, I can give you a coffee that you would swear is blueberry tea with a squeeze of lemon in it, but it's coffee. It's the Ethiopian Guji. During the pandemic, we won an auction for a geisha bean, one of the world's best coffee beans, and the lot sold except for one bag. And I think it was a typo that somehow it just got left out there. And so, for lack of a better term, we stole it. And we have this amazing coffee that tastes like peaches and strawberries. And it's
so good.
Oh, it's so good. We also pride ourselves here. We created a Northern Italian dark roast. One of the trends in coffee is to get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter with roast. So if you do like the floral coffees or the fruity coffees, great. But if you don't, maybe you grew up in Hooker, Oklahoma on Folgers, and you want something strong, but not burned. We affectionately refer to our friends over at the Drowning Mermaid. Charbucks. That place. Anyway, without burning the beans, we've created this Northern Italian dark roast. And to be fair, it cost us probably several $1,000s of mistakes because we did burn the beans. But we have Midnight Oil, a nice name for an Oklahoma coffee.
Of course.
But it's a 5-bean blend, leads with organic Sumatra, and the cupping notes are Bing cherry, those dark, purple cherries, plum wine, and clove. And it's magic. If you put cream in it, it becomes dessert.
God, I'm so hungry now. I'm thirsty, hungry, and everything above. That's awesome. Where does, I guess, the charity side of things for you come in then? Is that through the ministry as well?
So obviously, you know, my heart obviously leaning that way, but no, it's my brother's fault. My brother and his family. This is a
Sorry.
No. This is good. No, it's the topic we need to talk about. It's where does not your average Joe come from?
Yeah.
So I had an 11-year-old nephew that passed away with cerebral palsy and hydrocephalus. His name was Braxton. And I watched Braxton be the joy of our family. He never walked, he never talked, but to be around him, your life was better. But I watched Braxton be excluded his whole life, excluded at school to a different room. Even at churches, he wasn't allowed with the other kids or in the auditorium. And his parents never got to have respite. They were always on with caregiving. After Braxton's passing, I made a promise to myself that I would do anything ever within my power to help children or adults with special needs to be included as opposed to excluded.
Sure.
So when I got into coffee, I didn't know that Not Your Average Joe would look like what it is today.
Right.
God opened those doors along the way, and we just stepped through them. But over time, obviously, we wanted to give back to the community, and so that's why we identified different charities. We had clean water projects. Again, I mentioned some of the others earlier. But when the time came to choose one, it kind of makes sense that I would go back to watching what Braxton went through and said, hey, let's address that.
Yeah.
And so when you come to Not Your Average Joe, and like Becca is in there right now, Becca is mostly nonverbal.
Sure.
And so many people think, well, what can she do? Well, she's hand pulling espresso. Becca is making your salad.
Yeah.
And if you try to put the wrong thing in the salad, oh my, she'll let you know your golf swing's not right, buddy. I mean, she's going to come over there and coach you up.
Yeah.
And that's the joy. And every person, regardless of abilities, has different strengths. K-Money, Catherine, her nickname, she's great at hospitality. She loves to talk. She loves to share stories. And that's a great person to meet when you come into the shop, because maybe you've had a rough day. Maybe you just failed the test. Maybe you had a triple bogey. You know, I mean, whatever the case may be, it wasn't going well. And suddenly someone's talking to you and you realize, hey, you know, maybe my life's not so bad after all today.
Yeah.
And you leave with an exceptional cup of coffee served by what we call even better people.
Yeah. I mean, every business has a meaning behind it, and that's a very powerful one or your why, right? Like everyone relates things to why they do their business and why you get to where you are, and it comes to coffee, and now you get to serve, and you never thought you would do, right? When you look back, you think, you know, mum says to you when you're 10 or whatever, you're going to be a coffee shop and you're going to employ, you know, and give back through the disabled adults and stuff like that. It's amazing how life works and how it takes us to certain places. And, you know, like you mentioned, like Homeland's come to you, right? The original Midtown location, they came to you and said, would you do this? Like, this all happens for a reason. And I love just listening to you and listening to others as well who talk about the things that come to them and taking those signs and being like, you know what, having that awareness to, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's right.
Right? Because you said you've gone through 3 different life cycles, or three different things. You know, you're an announcer, chapters in life, and then you get here and you're like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
And they're all lessons on it when you go back and you're like, okay, I've learned something from each one. It's not like, you know, you have some people and you meet them and they're bitter about wasting their life doing 5 years of something that they shouldn't be doing. Like, well, no, what do you learn from that? A ton.
And you're spot on, friend. You're spot on, because everything I've done has prepared me for this moment.
Yeah.
Every single thing. I'm mindful of you saying, you know, when you're 10, you don't think, okay. In the old days, of course, and I mean the old days, you know, if you were born into your father's profession, you know, or your mother's profession. You'd follow in their steps. Well, my dad was a butcher. I was a singles minister in Dallas once, and I called Dad and said, hey, I finally followed in your steps. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you know, everybody comes in here looking for someone new, Dad. I mean, you know, it's a little crazy out there. Anyway, I never thought I would be back in serving food,
Right.
serving people. And it's just great to actually follow in Dad's steps all these years later. Because you're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe I do.
Maybe you do.
Maybe I do.
Yeah, it's amazing how it comes back around, isn't it? And you're like, oh, when you look back down the line of things you do and everything adds up, like, oh, okay, maybe I am supposed to be here. Well, to that point, and not your average Joe, and obviously, this is a big time where we're at right now in Norman. You have your grand opening this weekend, which Saturday this will go out. So today, if you're listening, come on by. Get to like this moment, like what has it been like with the Midtown and obviously having a pandemic and opening now this store and then Homeland and just all these things that come in. How do you take all that in? How do you deal with all that? Right?
It's don't
not
sleep.
Easy.
You don't
so
sleep.
The coffee's full. Yeah.
Everyone always asks, do you own Not Your Average Joe? Are you the owner of this business? And I'm like, no, it owns me.
Yeah.
I am the executive director of a nonprofit, but we have a board president, and we all are excited, grateful, but make no mistake, we're tired. Anything worth doing is not easy.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that persistence is probably the only thing that separates success and failure. It's not the education, all the connections even. It's do you press on toward the goal to win that prize that's in front of you?
Yeah.
So good metaphor in sports, but good metaphor in business as well. Obviously, ours is a business with a cause, and we can't do it alone, though. We try to operate in the black so that we teach them business along the way. And obviously, it costs money to open new stores, and so we're going to need help from time to time to make those dreams reality, to create new jobs and new markets. But anyway, we're super excited to have the support of a lot of Oklahomans. On the roasting side, Compadres joined Made in Oklahoma several years ago. One of the best decisions I ever made in terms of working with business, because I placed myself in partnership with other businesses. And even if we're just sharing stories or wisdom or resources, it's great. But, for all of your guests, if they're within driving distance of Norman, Oklahoma, or Midtown, what soon will be, up there at Lake Hefner at Homeland, love to have them come in and get a great cup of coffee. We also make homemade ice cream. I don't know if we've gotten to talk about that.
No, we haven't. Tell me about that.
My friend,
love ice cream.
We absorbed a Super Scoop several years ago, and so we have Dr. Pepper chocolate chip ice cream down there. We have cinnamon toast crunch, bring back your childhood, toasted coconut, all the classics as well. But we try to make a lot of yummy goodness, we call it. We have an Elvis sandwich with peanut butter and banana. That was his thing, but we add bacon, of course, a made in Oklahoma honey, a made in Oklahoma jam. We serve that on blueberry bread after it's been toasted on a panini press.
I'm gonna have to eat some
food tonight.
Nice. Yeah, so good. I went to his place in is it Memphis?
It is Memphis. Yeah.
I had two friends come into town from Wales, and one of them loves Elvis. He's like, we've got to go. It's only 7-hour drive. I'm like, only 7 hours. So we jumped in the car, literally drove up there, spent the night, went to the thing, and drove back. And it was an awesome 2 days.
Good shag carpet, good barbecue.
Just, typical. Like I think I just graduated college, so I wasn't very wealthy at the time. I'm still not wealthy now, but at the time, we picked like the worst hotel, literally at the end of the runway in Memphis, down the street from the Elvis's place, and we get to bed. And I just hear this giant plane trying to land on the hotel.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what is that? Where are we? And I look at the map, I'm like, oh, great. Wind's out of the north. We're on the north side of the airport. These things are coming into land or whatever it is, south or whatever the thing is. But I didn't sleep much that night. But great experience for anyone who wants to go. Get up to that Elvis, the museum. I was more, the house is great. But across the street, where you go through and see all of his cars and all of his outfits and his records and stuff. The outfits are fantastic.
Well, you mentioned you're a car fan, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So obviously, Compadres, you're still doing the roasting stuff.
We do.
As well?
We roast for universities, churches, other coffee shops, restaurants. You've never, to this date, seen a retail presence of Compadres. Because we've white labeled for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that if you live in Oklahoma, there is is a statistical probability that you've had our coffee under somebody else's label. But we have 4 of our team that have been SCA top certified roasting. I believe the first female SCA certified roaster in Oklahoma as well. And we love what we do. We do ancillary allied products for coffee shops, so like the smoothies, the fraps. We are now the new Oklahoma distributor nationally from Sherpa Chai, made by Sherpas who immigrated from Nepal. They live in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
They brought their Himalayan recipes. And so I told you I got into coffee through chai.
Yeah.
When you have Sherpa Chai, there's no such thing as any other chai.
Yeah.
It will not compare.
It is the
and
pinnacle.
It will take you to the mountains.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it? I mean, one of the things that's so good about food and coffee and drinks is that the taste takes you somewhere.
That's right.
It's that memory of like, okay, this tastes like I should be at my mum's house or my nan's house or, my aunt's house on this day, whatever it is. Like it's such a comfort.
That's right.
And I'm sure you've probably had that, like we were talking about, the tastings and different drops and different flavors. You think, oh, this does taste like this. What does that remind me of? And it breeds conversation, doesn't it? And that's the best thing. It's like, and a mutual friend, Todd, obviously in coffee as well at Iote, like he would say to me, coffee is just the center of everything. Like think of all the big decisions you've made. That's probably been over a coffee. And what better to have that coffee in a shop like Not Your Average Joe.
That's right.
When you're giving back, and it's a charity. It's not a, obviously it's got to make money, but that money isn't going into lining the pockets of some corporate business owner.
That's right.
It's going to giving better jobs and giving more jobs to the disabled and taking that percentage down, which is like, I recently did a podcast with Dale Rogers Training Center.
Yep.
And the stats came from that too. And what they do. And we've done one with the names passing me, but there's one in Enid too. And like why is this an issue? It shouldn't be. Because the disabled friends that I have, they, like you said earlier, they're brilliant at, they're very different, right? But they're absolutely phenomenal at like one or two things.
That's right.
And what better way to build a team?
That's right.
Than have like specialty people come in and be like, this person's amazing at greeting. This person's amazing at making handmade, salads or espressos. Yeah, and it goes a long way, doesn't it?
You're spot on. A coffee shop could be we call it a third space. So back in the day, when we were watching TV, when we were a little younger, and Cheers, that place that everybody knows your name. And so if you come into your local coffee shop and they know your name, that's certainly helpful. But Todd was right about those decisions are made. In my coffee world over the years, I've seen people get engaged and unengaged at coffee shops. In Midtown, I've seen business deal after business deal after business deal. Obviously, I've seen friends catch up. I've seen friends say goodbye. It is a special place. Yeah. And we've just added an extra layer of special. And it's been an amazing opportunity for us, and we are so grateful to be able to watch and witness the transformation that's going on. So it's fun.
I'm sure it's great. Just the students now are down in OU. They're coming in here. People are meeting with their mum and dad that are coming to town or whatever it is. There's so many things that are happening, and I don't know. It just makes you smile, doesn't it? It
does, and I know my dad's smiling, which makes me happy, because he's like, yeah, your ego probably got ahead of you, kid. And, see, there's value in serving people. Yeah. There's value in serving people food and drink that will create a context for their conversation, for their community. And we take that for granted in our culture. The value of service. And so Dad's smiling, but I also think Braxton's
smiling. 100% smiling. Yeah.
Because
it's and I've been, when I was in school back in Wales, a kid same as Matthew, had a walker, legs, definitely, obviously something was wrong with his legs and he struggled to walk, had to walk with a walker. But he's the happiest person in the world.
That's right.
And when you're around someone like that and you're like, you have everything to complain about. Literally everything. Like, you were born this way. You can't, like, you have a lot of things to be mad at. and they're the happiest person in the world, and you're just like, you know what, maybe like something that happened today where I have a nail in my tire, or you know, whatever, someone like hits me because they text on their phone, like, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter. Like,
right.
It brings everything back to perspective, doesn't it?
That's right.
So yeah,
I hope that your listeners can come and visit Danielle, for example, in Midtown, and dance with her and ask her about her life.
Yeah.
But she's still dancing. I hope that they can meet John, who's legally blind and legally deaf. He's the chef that you want to bake your cake but not decorate it. But he makes the homemade ice cream.
Yeah.
And he loves making people happy by serving them food.
Yeah.
He gets it. And I think they're giving us the opportunity to get it. That's what's 100%. Really happening on.
Yeah. So opening day, grand opening is Saturday. When you're listening to this, that means it's today. What time you guys open? Anything special happening?
There's a lot of special. We'll be open by the time they hear this, I presume. So we open 7 o'clock most days, 8 o'clock I think on Saturday. And we're having $1 ice cream all day long, $2 pastries, and $3 coffee, drinks, whatever of your choice. Yeah. If you want chai, smoothie, frap, come and get it. But the good news is the specials don't just end after the grand opening. If you can't come out, every Monday we have a thing called Back to the Grind, and you got to go back to work. So at all of our shops from 7 a.m. To 10 a.m., we do $2 coffees, $2 pastries, $2 off your lattes. Every Friday's Frappe Friday, half price fraps all day long.
Yeah.
You get to celebrate the coming weekend, but we try to keep dancing.
Sure. And then where are we located right now? And then also, how can everyone follow you on social media?
So the Norman location is at 1001 Elm Avenue. It's basically just south of the intersection of Elm and Lindsay, diagonal from the freshman dorms. You can follow Instagram NYAJ Norman. For this location, for the Midtown location, NYAJ Midtown, and it's located at 1227 North Walker. The new Homeland location will be there at May and Britton inside the Homeland.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me down here. Thanks for a wonderful cup of coffee, and I mean, wish you guys all the success for this new location opening up, and also the Homeland that's coming, and more Homelands to come.
Well, you know, we're excited, and thank you, and thank everyone behind the podcast for This Is Oklahoma making this happen. We're looking forward to big things, but thank you for taking your time to share with us.
Awesome. For everyone listening, I'll post all the links down below. Tim just mentioned all the social media links, and then the locations as well, the addresses, and we'll catch you next episode. Cheers. This podcast is made possible by the Made in Oklahoma program. Created for Oklahoma's entrepreneurs, their free-to-join program focuses on economic growth and development for the small businesses who grow, process, or manufacture a good within Oklahoma. Retail stores who sell Made in Oklahoma products can also benefit from their program. Above all, they encourage you to support and shop local wherever possible. Find them on Facebook and visit their website at www.madeinoklahoma.net to learn more.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.